Hello and welcome to the Geographic Calculator webinar for the month of April. Currently, all attendees are in listen-only mode, and you should be able to see the first slide on your screen. My name is Cassandra Quintel, and I'm an Applications Specialist here at Blue Marble. I'm here today with Sam Knight, the Director of Product Management.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are going to be talking specifically about the Geographic Calculator application. Today's topic is specifically coordinate systems and tools that we have available in the Geographic Calculator 2014 for dealing with the Canadian Dominion Land Survey coordinate systems. Those systems, for those of you who may be not so familiar with the area, are township systems for the province of Alberta and the province of Saskatchewan, and we're going to be talking about where we're going with those in the future. So the type of coordinate data we're going to be dealing with today are going to be numeric coordinate points only. These are more complicated than the average coordinates. They're not just simple X's and Y's, northings and eastings, lats and longs. These are local offsets within subgrids of subgrids in township and range-based systems. So we're going to be dealing with two types of numeric data, both just simple individual coordinates and coordinates stored in Excel sheets. And could be a few other things. We're just going to be using some samples stored in Excel sheets. They could come in from ASCII data. They could come in from DBF files. Any of the formats that you're going to be storing numeric tabular data in would be representative of what we're doing today. We're going to be looking at three main interfaces. We're going to be looking at the interactive conversions job. We're going to be looking at single point conversions on that job. We're going to be looking at the point database conversions job. That's going to be where we handle our tabular data, things like the Excel sheets we're going to take a look at. And we're going to be taking a look at a brand new job in Calculator 2014. That is the Land Survey Summary job. Now, those of you who are familiar with past versions of the Geographic Calculator, 2013 or back in the Blue Marble desktop days, some of these tools have actually changed in 2014. So you're going to see some differences. I'll be pointing out where things have changed, where things have moved around a little bit in the latest version of Calculator 2014 as we go.
Great. If you have any questions during the presentation, you can use the questions tool on the GoToWebinar panel on the right of your screen. We'll try to answer any of the questions you may have, and if there's any outstanding questions at the end of the presentation, Sam will get to those as well.
Okay, and as always, if you have questions that are maybe a little deeper than you want to get into here during the live session, or if you think of something afterwards, please feel free to write into our support address at geohelp@bluemarblegeo.com. You'll see that right at the bottom of your screen there. And Cassie, you want to tell us a little bit about some conferences?
Yeah, absolutely. Blue Marble will be attending and presenting at many conferences in the next coming weeks. Right today, we're actually at the GEOINT conference down in Tampa, Florida. We're also going out to Portland, Oregon for the GIS in Action conference. We'll be there tomorrow. Next week, we'll be at the Esri Petroleum GIS conference in Houston, Texas. And finally, at the end of the month, on April 28th, we'll be at the Intergeo Eurasia conference in Istanbul, Turkey. If you guys are going to be attending any of those events, please feel free to stop by our booth.
Okay, and that's actually even just the tip of the iceberg. We had far more than we could get to on a single slide here. We're going to be all over the place in the next weeks and the next couple of months here as well. So check out our events page down there at the bottom. If you go to our main website, you'll find a link to under the About Us events page. That'll get you right there. And you can see the conferences we're going to be at over the next several months. Particularly of note, we are having our own conference a couple times this year. We've been doing Blue Marble user conferences in various locations. We've done Houston and Denver in the past few years. We've decided to actually do two sessions this year. So we are going to be doing a Blue Marble user conference in Calgary. In September, we will be coming to Calgary at the Delta Bow Valley Hotel. We're going to be doing one of our user conference sessions there. We have an open website for registration and call for presentations. The URL is right at the bottom of the slide there. So if you have any stories you'd like to share about your use of any Blue Marble software, it doesn't have to just be the calculator that we're talking about today. If you're users of Global Mapper or Calculator or any of our software development kits, feel free to take a look at our call for presentations, and we'd love to have you come and tell your story at our conference. As well, real quick here, before we dive into the presentation, I'll just pull up our website. We do actually have a full website right around that. So if you go to bluemarblegeo.com/BMUC, you'll see there are 2 conference sites. So we're going to be having a conference both in Calgary and as well down in Houston, Texas, about a month later. So each site fully has its own registration, its own call for papers. So please feel free to check out both of those, and we'd love to see you at whichever of those locations is more convenient for you. So today's session, to get started, we're gonna hop over here into the calculator, and before we do really roll forward, I'm going to try and fire off a poll here if I can get my webinar controls to come back for a second. Just a quick poll we'd like to start with about how long you've been using the Geographic calculator. Go ahead and launch that. You should see it on your screen now. I'm going to leave this open for a few seconds, and you'll see a few options there, whether you're just getting started or whether you're a long-time user of the application. We have been around for more than 20 years now, since the company started back in 1993. And so we've found there's a lot of different type of folks that are going to be joining us on these sessions. Okay, I'm going to leave that open for just another second. Looks like it's starting to slow down on the responses there, and I'm going to close that up. And give me just a second, we'll share that out. Looks like we have a lot of new users here today, just getting started. So we're going to be taking a pretty basic look at a couple of interfaces. The interactive interface is probably our most basic starting place for most users. The point database job is where most folks are doing the main part of their work, and this new job for the land survey summary as well. So let's get back to the interface here, and we can get started with some actual material. Now the interactive conversions panel, the job that we're looking at right now, this is essentially our simplest place to work. We'll talk about the setup of the coordinate systems here, we'll talk about the inputs and the outputs, and then we're going to get a little more complicated as we start talking about database files, tables of data, and then even a little more complicated in the land survey summary job that we've just added. All of the coordinate system controls are going to be the same from job to job. So you're going to see these controls down at the bottom here, the blue boxes, where we're going to set up our input and output systems. Things like a latitude-longitude system as we have here, just a basic latitude-longitude on NAT83. Any of those geodetically based systems, projected systems, if you're going to be using things like UTM coordinates, if you're going to be using things like the MTM systems that you folks use up in Canada, anything like that is going to be able to be used right on this interface. Whatever type of coordinate system you select, the lat and long fields in this case are going to change to maybe northing and easting, or in the case of an Alberta township system that I've got over here on the right, you're going to see it change rather drastically to all of the various components that make up a string of a position in the Alberta township system. Now, for those of you who are just starting off with the application, let's take a look at actually selecting a coordinate system. What we do is we double-click on the various blue boxes here that we want to get into, and the first few times you come through this, you have a prompt whether you'd like to narrow it down by a geographic area. And this will let you click on a map to narrow down the geography of where you're working to filter out the list of coordinate systems. You can toggle that off if you like. I'm going to say no. I'm just going to go into our main list here so we see everything. And the way this works is the tree view on the left. We have all of the various types of coordinate systems. So you'll see things like fitted engineering grids, geocentric, Earth-centered, Earth-fixed coordinates, latitude, longitude, geodetic systems, projected systems down at the bottom. And here's the new one. There's a new category down here called string, and these are special formats of coordinates that don't really cleanly fall into anything else. I'm going to come back to that one in just a second. First, down under the geodetic here where we had NAT 83 selected, you'll see these are all broken down into geopolitical organization. So first by country, first by continent, then smaller countries or subunits therein. Fairly easy to find what you're looking for. If you're not sure what you're looking for or exactly where you're looking for it, you can use the search field at the very bottom of the screen there, just a simple text search, and that will return you all the various lists of things down beneath those subfolders. If we have, in this case, North American wide system, NAT 83, NAT 27, we'll see those at the continent level. And then if we get down into the subregions, you'll see some of these smaller regional variations of some of those systems, or sometimes just differing models for the very localized area. So for our Canadian users, you'll see things like NAT 83 CSRS that is only used within Canada, and some of those other regional variants of the NAT 83, NAT 27, the average terrestrial system used out here in the Maritimes, more back out here in Maine on our coast. Now the string-based coordinate systems are a new category I mentioned, and this is one of the things that's going to be a little different for folks who have been with us for a long time, folks who are comfortable working with the ATS definitions that we've had in the past. You're going to be looking for those in a new place in the 2014 release. We've had them down as sort of a special case of a geodetic coordinate system, sort of a wrapper on a lat-long coordinate, if you will. That's always been kind of an uncomfortable place for them because they aren't really that. It was always just sort of a wrapped up delivery of a lat-long coordinate. And what we've done in 2014 is added this new category. And you'll notice there are coordinate types here that are not just for the Canadian areas that we're going to be talking about today. There are versions of this found in Europe. There are worldwide systems, and they cover various uses from military grid formats that are combinations of letters and numbers indicating various zones and subzones. They're all very different in appearance from each other. But what they really are is a special type of coordinate system that's not really a projected system, and it's not really a lat-long system. The reason we use the word string there is because they are formatted, but they're non-numeric necessarily. In computer speak, they are a string to deliver your coordinates. And in the case of the Canadian systems we're going to be talking about today, there are various groups of these. So in particular, we now support the Alberta township system that we've had for a few years now. But you'll notice we've also added a new category for Saskatchewan. This is newly supported in version 2014 of the calculator. Now, as I'm clicking on these categories, particularly in Saskatchewan, and if I click on some of the subgroups of the Alberta zones, you'll notice that some of these are flagged in red. Actually, most of them are flagged in red, and a few of them here are in black, and they are indicating that they are in the usable state. So the red text and the exclamation point icon at the beginning of each of these definitions indicates that they are in an unusable state. And the reason for that is all of the ATS grids, the Saskatchewan grids, there are other coordinate systems around the world that use these grids. They essentially have lookup tables. They have the coordinate points of the corners of all of these township systems, all the ranges and such. And in the absence of those lookup tables, we're not able to actually use them. So when they're indicating that they're not in a usable state, all that means is that we don't currently have the grid files for those loaded into the application. Now, the one we are shipping out of the box is the Alberta systems, specifically version 4.1 of the ATS systems. You'll notice I've got 3.2 also active here, and that's because I have added that into my local installation on the machine that I'm on today. The files that are in here, if we crack any of these things open, I'm going to right-click on that. I'm going to say View Info, and that's going to tell us the various files that it's going to be looking for internally in there. So the version of the grid it's looking for is called AB32 NAD27, and I simply don't have that particular file. Now, to get that file into the application, there's a very simple method for this. You just right-click on that zone, just like you're going to say View Info, and you'll see Download Missing Files. I'm gonna go ahead and click on this. It's going to automatically launch a download, and that will instantly go into a usable state. Now, each of those grids does need to be downloaded one by one, but it's a very quick process, as you just saw me download that one grid to get these all in place in the application.
Sam, can grids from 2013 be used in 2014?
That's a question probably a lot of folks are asking right now, because they are all fairly standardized. These, in the past, all these grids needed to be sourced from a company called Altalis up in Alberta. They provided these grids. I'm sure our Canadian users are very familiar with the process of getting those grids. A lot of companies will have somebody in charge of downloading those grids, putting them in place in the various software tools that require them. What we've done in our installation for 2014 is we've actually gotten permission. Altalis has opened that up. A lot of folks are now allowed to pass those around for free, so we are now allowed to actually distribute those ourselves. In order to make these very lightweight and fast, we've actually packed them up into our own format. So they have all the original precision of the base files, but they're in a format that's a lot faster for us to read inside the application. So if you're trying to bring those forward from a past installation, you will need to download them again. They are in a new format to work with 2014, specifically designed to work with our new implementation of the string-based coordinate system. Likewise, if you have the grids that you've downloaded from some other applications, they may also be in a different format. So to use these inside the calculator, you do need to just quickly download those right through this interface is really the easiest and most streamlined way to get a hold of those grids.
Thanks, Sam.
Okay, and once you've got the relevant grids downloaded that you're going to use, we can instantly take those right back into production. So you'll see those both under the ATS categories for both boundary and corner measurements, and you're also going to see those down under the new Saskatchewan grids. They've got just a couple grid files needed to actually bring those down as well. So all very quick downloads. Once we've selected our coordinate system, we come back to the main interface. You're going to be able to use those same grids. You don't need to download them for different interfaces. It's just download each once, and it's going to stay there on your system. We can actually get on with setting up our transformations. So I have a simple coordinate here I've gotten out of one of our testing points for completing these. And it's a NAD83 latitude longitude, and I'm going to be converting that over to an ATS, Alberta Township System, boundary measurement using the 4.1 grids. And you'll see that's, of course, based on NAD83 and using the units of international feet. To complete that transformation, if you're going to be setting this up, you could set this up using the NAD83 CSRS variant of the datum if you need to. You could transform from alternate systems. You could be transforming to this from some of the ITRF systems or the WGS84s, whatever you need for your input system to the output system, or vice versa. Maybe you're coming from ATS systems in this case. We'd set our coordinate systems on both sides of the interface. We're going to feed in this case, our input is going to be a lot long, and we're going to write out I've actually already completed the conversion here on screen, but we're writing out an Alberta boundary measurement. And if you need a coordinate transformation, so if you're going to be going here between from, say, NAD27 to NAD83 or WGS84 or NAD83 CSRS, any of those common transformations can be employed. They'll simply be selected in the center box here. In my case, I'm actually going from the same geodetic base to a NAD83 based system for output, so I actually don't need a transformation here. I could simply select none to go from NAD83 to NAD83, or if I'm actually interested in doing a temporal shift, I can select a time-dependent transformation and select that for my transform. Now, if I select the time-dependent transformation here, it's going to run through a little widget called the Horizontal Time-Dependent Positioning Converter. And that will actually do a dynamic shift based on the epoch of our data. So you'll notice we've also got date controls here. If those dates are set onto different epochs, even if you are on the same input and output system, you can do a temporal shift on those as well. So in this case, I could do the frame epoch shift, or I could simply select none since I've got the same input and output system. Depends on the accuracy and the internal standards you're working with at your own enterprise, what choice you're going to make there. Once we've got our transformation defined, that's really it. We're going to go ahead and calculate that. You'll see all the coordinates that are previously in red text undefined. You'll see those all black out, indicating that everything is set on screen. On the output side of that, we have the coordinates. I already had those on place. I'd hit convert a little earlier, and we get all of the various constituents that make a ATS coordinate. So everything from the meridian, township, range, section, the legal subdivision there, LSD, what type of position format we're going to be writing out, either boundary or corner, and that's going to be determined by the type of specific ATS grid that we're working on, either a boundary or corner measurement system, and then the local offsets from either, again, that boundary or the corner. Now, that's sort of the simple end of the conversion. So we have one of those. That's all well and good. One of the things that we've had in the past that some folks using 2013 might be familiar with is there was a right-click control here. We can still do the right-click. You're going to notice that you no longer have the option to create an ATS summary sheet from this interface. We've actually moved that to the new job we're going to be taking a look at in just a few minutes. So we'll be taking a look in depth on that. You can still print your reports just like you always could under the File menu. That will print a simple layout of all of the details of the information you have on screen here. But to actually create that map layout, we're going to be looking at that new tool to do that. So next up, we're going to click over to the point database conversions job here. And here I have a simple Excel sheet loaded in. Now we're going to take a look at this data both here in the context of point database conversions as well as in the context of the new land survey summary. So we're going to see the same coordinate data on screen here on these next couple of jobs. In this case, the same controls you're going to notice, for those of you new to the application, you're going to notice all the same coordinate system controls on the bottom. Selecting the coordinate system is exactly the same. We're going to double-click on whichever box. We have the opportunity to use a map to narrow that down if we want to or not. We navigate down through the tree, and if we're looking for an ATS system, again, down under the new string category, finding the specifics of the local grids that we're looking for. Once we've selected those, back to the main interface, we can set up our output system. In this case, if we want to pick a transformation to an alternate system, maybe we're trying to GPS locate these township and range positions. Again, same process. We just simply double-click on the box in the center there. It's going to come up with a list of ways we can get between those two coordinate systems. Finding any of those from the list that we were looking for. Everything from the time-dependent positioning systems down to specific datum transformations, whatever way we want to connect the dots in there. On the point database tool, again, there is a new feature here in 2014, the ability to quickly load the bounds in of all the data to narrow down this list and get a more precise transformation. But the same widgets are available there. Whether we're going to any of those localized ATS or Saskatchewan grids or any of the other traditional datums, or not just datums, but traditional coordinate systems and projected coordinate systems and latitude-longitude coordinate systems that we might be working with in the area. So we select our datum transformation and, again, can calculate our outputs. Now that all looks very quick and slick there. Just hitting calculate and go. If our data is in different places in that sheet, how are we going to set this up? What I had done previously was come in here. You'll see the column settings button. So for those of you new to the application, the column settings is how we select which column of our data we're reading from and which columns we're going to be writing to. You also have the ability to add new columns in there, rearrange the columns through drag and drop, all of those types of functions. So wherever your data happens to fall in the sheet, you simply select the relevant column header, and if you don't have nice column headers with your data, you'll simply see placeholders like C1, C2, C3, and so on across the top of that sheet. All we have to do is go ahead and set those columns, hit the calculation, and we're good to go there on the conversion. You can set up as many of these as you need. You don't just have to output only one. You can actually insert your positions anywhere in there. We can drag and drop them after the fact if you want to rearrange the sheet that you're looking at. We can go back, add additional columns. Maybe I wanted to put on some UTM coordinates on the same sheet for output. And we can perform any of those extra calculations. When it comes time to actually save the data out of the interface, you'll notice down at the lower right, there's a Save button. That's going to allow us to save this down to any of those table types that we brought in. In this case, we're loading in from an XLSX sheet. We could save that out as the same format. We could save that out as a DBF, an ASCII format, or we could actually even vectorize that. So we could take these points. All we'd have to do would be to select any of our spatial formats. You'll see everything in there from shape to map info formats, AutoCAD, MicroStation, GML if you're going to bring it off into Google Earth, any number of ways that you can actually write that data out from this point database interface. Also, as an aside, for those of you who are new to the application, there are batching capabilities here on the point database conversions job. So I have, in this case, just one very simple file of a simple 4 points in a traverse. If I had, for example, say maybe I had 50 or 100 others of these files that I needed to do all of the same type of work on, we can set one of these up as a template, and then all we have to do is right-click on the job over on the project manager on the left. You'll see an option to batch add, and that will basically just let us do things like specify the other files that are going to be at play in the batch, where we're going to be writing those out to, what formats we want to write those out to, etc. A very quick batch tool, only takes a few more clicks beyond setting up the job initially to be able to write out a very large number of files in a batch process. Now the same data we're going to take a look at here also on our new job. And so what this data actually is a short traverse that takes place across a couple of the township areas in an Alberta township system zone. So you'll see I have some extra data in here. I have a description field saying start of traverse. I have waypoint 1, 2, and the end. So I've actually got 4 points that are intended to be connected together. Now the new tool that we have, we're going to see this land survey summary job. And I've got that grouped in a special project already defined here just for demonstration purposes. We don't include these in the stock out-of-the-box placeholder jobs because they are localized only to the regions of Alberta and Saskatchewan. They're not for everybody that's using the calculator. You can very quickly add one of those new jobs using the button here up on the toolbar. We've got a little theodolite icon. If you click on one of those, it's going to create a new job in your project manager, and then you can actually get to work setting one up. So for this example, I have the same input points. I've got this little traverse that we're going to walk along here. I've got my ATS points actually already calculated. If we were going the other way here, if we were starting off in, say, UTM positions or lat-long systems, what we would need to do is first run through a point database conversion, get your coordinates into either ATS in the boundary or in the corner measurements, whatever type of specification you prefer for your strings, and then load those over here into the land survey summary job. Now the description field, it's certainly not required. That's essentially just a label that we're going to apply on that. The only thing you actually need to create one of these jobs is either a file of coordinates in a single column here. So basically what I've got in my ATS point column. It does not have to have any kind of label on it. You can also have any number of other information in here. You could have, say, some other attributes that are located in the table. I just have a very simple file here. I don't actually have any of those other attributes. I've got placeholders for my distance and azimuth. And we're going to use those to show one of the things this job can actually do. There are basically two ways we're going to be writing one of these out. What it's going to do for us is take the points along our traverse, or it doesn't have to be a traverse. They can also be disconnected points just around an area. We can optionally calculate the distance and azimuth in order from our points, or you can leave those disconnected. So here we're starting off with boundary coordinates. We've got them all laid out in their strings, complete with the offsets at the end there. These happen to be version 4.1 of the ATS grids, NAT 83 international feet for the offsets. We're going to take a look at the format settings. This is something I actually didn't mention on the interactive job, the point database job. You will see those format buttons available on each of these. The way to clarify one of these systems is there are some basic display options. So there is a string display order of the unique well identifier for those of you working in the oil industry up in Alberta, or there is the standard survey order. As I understand these, I don't work with these terribly frequently. I think I have a pretty good grasp on them. The standard survey order is what is specified by most sort of your basic land surveyors, your cadastral surveyors, and places like the Alberta Geological Survey. The unique well identifier is essentially the reverse order. So the string is essentially backwards. The offsets in feet are still at the end. The rest of the string is actually reversed. Two different ways to write down the coordinates. You just simply need to specify which version your data is using. And in my case, I have data that came from someone in the oil industry was kind enough to give us some sample data, and we've moved these around. They're not in the same place. It's completely synthetic data we have here. The linear units that are actually being used, those are chosen by the coordinate system. And there's some specialty options around how to deal with road allowances. For those of you that are comfortable with working with these, I'm sure these are things you're at least a little bit familiar with, whether you want to assume that there is one chain is in the linear unit chain of road allowance around the edge of the townships. Some of these are actually specified in the base grids that define these townships, or if you want to control it as a user-defined variable. We've got the placeholder in there, 66 feet of one chain as a placeholder. The default on these is to use the point file as the definitive of the road allowance around the edge, and that is simply because some of these are actually different from file to file, and the file specifies where those road allowances are. Again, you are free to change those. Down at the bottom on the format settings here, you'll see a live example, and this example will live update as you change the things like the string order at the top of the interface. So you'll see these reflect the types of numbers you're going to be looking at in your display formatting. Once we get those to where they match your data, we click OK, we're good to go. The other thing you're going to notice that's going to be different here is there is not an output system. There's only an input system. This job isn't about conversion between different coordinate systems. This is simply about creating a report within the context of a single group of data. So if you're going to do any conversion work, you'd start out that workflow on the point database job, get the data you're looking for into the relative township you're interested in, and then hop over here to the land survey job to create the report. Now the report itself is going to be essentially a graphical map. It will automatically calculate UTM coordinates for your ATS points. You can control the specific zone. If you're near one of the edges of those zones, you can force it into the zone you are interested in. Whether or not to show NAD27 outputs on those as well. It will automatically calculate a number of things for us here, from the UTM coordinates to NAD27 coordinates if you are in a NAD83 system. And lastly, there are the column settings. And the column settings are where we specify where that data actually is in our table. So you'll see the ATS points. In this case, I've already got that set as the source, so I'm going to be reading from those ATS points. The description, I actually have a field called description, so I simply grabbed onto that. You can skip that, or you can add one in and manually fill that out yourself. Now for these points are actually intended to be a series of consecutive waypoints. So we're going to start a traverse, we're going to go through a couple waypoints and end up at the end of our line. This little toggle here will simply toggle whether or not you also want to find the inverses between each of those points. That is the distance and azimuth between the consecutive points in your traverse list there. So I'm going to toggle that on. We're going to connect the dots here, and we'll see all the pieces of the report. The inverse we can calculate on either the geodesic path or a RUM path. Over very short distances, you're going to see extremely small variations between those two. They are two types of navigation from point to point. Either the geodesic is the great circle distance, whereas the RUM line holds a fixed azimuth, two very slightly different paths to get to the same place. And then for output, we can set distance and azimuth if you have placeholders, such as I do already, or you can actually go ahead and add those out. And if you click Add, you'll be able to insert those anywhere in the table that you're looking at. The azimuth back, I do not have one set in there, and the azimuth back is simply the azimuth from the second point back to the first point, going in the reverse direction. And then again, also distance and azimuth units, much like an inverse calculation back on our point database job. So once those are set, and we have our input defined for the ATS points, we have the outputs defined for the numbers we're looking for, we can go ahead and hit process. And what that calculates for us looks like some very simple information: distance between the points, the azimuth between the points, how to get there. But the other piece of what comes out of this is over on the output preview. Up at the top, you're going to notice right next to the settings tab, there are two tabs to this job. The output preview takes us over to a map control. And this map control shows us the relative locations of the points that we're working with. So there's our points, the start of traverse, waypoint 1, waypoint 2, waypoint 3. There's a simple information panel down on the lower left. I'll come back to that in just a second. And each of these points, if we zoom in just a little bit here, onto the map, you'll see start of traverse. This is our first point. It gives us the coordinates that are calculated for that point. So I had toggled on to show me the NAD27 coordinates in both lat long and UTM zone 11. Down a little farther, you'll see NAD83 versions. Let me control my zoom a little touch there. The local coordinates, both corner and boundary specifications of the same ATS points. So each of our points, in order there, you'll see all that same reported information, depending on whether you've selected to show the NAD27 coordinates, depending on whether you've selected to add the inverse distances and bearings. Now the distances and bearings show up in their own box. Just zoom in on one there. The bearing between the start of traverse and the waypoint 1, you'll see the connecting line pointing back to the line itself, shows the azimuth in degrees, the distance in meters as we specified on the column settings. Now as I'm zooming in and out, you're probably noticing a little bit, those of you who are sharp on the eye, you're noticing a little bit of labeling coming and going here on the view. The draw, we're sort of working on improving our draw in some of our next maintenance releases to tighten up some of those redraw issues. Specifically as you zoom in and zoom out, you'll see little bits of the text get nipped off here and there. The visualization on screen here is not really the main intent of these data. These are for printing out and for generating PDFs of those. Before I write this out to a PDF, I'm just going to come back to our settings and see this little info button down here on the lower right. That info button is this little pop-up here. This information gets written into that box in the lower left. So when we see that description on the output preview, you'll see on our lower left the information that you've piped in. So you have a slot for company name, a simple text description of the layout report you're looking for, the date, author name. Globey's our little unofficial mascot here at Blue Marble. The scale, which you will see is actually blank. The scale gets written in once you have selected a paper size to print these out to. So this will actually write out paper cartographic scale, as well as the DLS grid version that you are working with. In this case, I'm looking at ATS version 4.1. Now, all of that information I mentioned is really intended to be written out somewhere else. The context of the map frame that we have here, we can see our traverse actually goes across 2 townships, so it has included both of those townships for me on the view. It will expand to however many of those you need. The location of all of the text boxes is smart placement. They will simply try to avoid colliding with each other, preventing overlap from any of those. Tries a number of locations till it finds something that does not step on the toes of another box. All of this is automatically generated. This is all intended to be written out as a PDF. If you want to print it, write it out as a PDF, and then send it out to whatever print you'd like to actually use there. So I'm going to bring up our PDF output. This is very much like the PDF output you will see on our map viewer for normal spatial data types. We can select any type of paper that we need to be working with. These are all PDF standard types, so everything from your simple letter size paper to the European variants of those, the various plotter sizes as well if you're looking for a larger format. Simple orientation. This one's a little bit sideways, so I'm gonna select landscape. Automatic will do its best to get the largest version of that image on the paper that you've specified, whether it's tall and skinny or short and wide. We can also export those out to a fixed scale if you're very particular about the cartographic scale it's going to end up on paper. You simply need to pick something that will fit on the paper size you're working with. Your various other settings here, things like margins, what units you're specifying those in, header and footer as well. And you'll see a number of grayed out options here that don't apply to creating a PDF from this particular interface. Since there is only going to be one basic layer of data, there are no rasters, things like that. We gray out some of those options. So I'll go ahead and write this out. I'm going to write this back out to my desktop, and I'll just write out a simple PDF here called sam.pdf. I'm going to save that out, and that's all there is to it. So it tells me when it's finished writing that PDF. It usually just takes a second. And then we could save this onto another paper size, or we can go ahead and close out of there. Now I'm just going to quickly go down to my desktop. I'm going to grab my new PDF. We'll see that pop open in whatever PDF handler application you've got. In my case, I'm just using the basic Adobe Reader application, and it comes out much as we would expect here. Let me zoom in just a touch. I'll zoom into actual size. We can get it all on screen there. And one of the things you'll notice here is the point styles look very slightly different. They're solid black dots. Some of the lines show up a little more bold than they do in the viewer. Most notably, though, you'll notice there all of the text very cleanly draws. All of the text is being rendered by the Adobe Reader in this case. It's simply the overlap issues you bump into in the viewer. Right now, those are known issues. We're working on tightening that up just a little bit. This is our first version of this new tool, but they come out very, very cleanly in the PDF. Nicer appearances. The fonts are able to vary a little more. Our view engine is really not intended to be a full GIS capable viewer. It's basically a very quick inspection tool for taking a look at your spatial data. Now this PDF is actually a geospatial PDF. So not only do you have the layout here and the numeric coordinate data, but you've also got access to the coordinates. So you can load this PDF into any application that supports the geographic tags in a PDF document, and you can actually bring that in place with your coordinates. So you can bring that over into our other application, Global Mapper. You can bring that into whatever other GIS you need to get it in there. That's about what we have on our agenda for the day. I'm just going to take a look at some of the questions that have come in here over the hour.
I've got a question, Sam.
Okay.
Will there be support for more than just Saskatchewan and Alberta?
Yes, actually. So we added Saskatchewan. We've supported Alberta for a few years now. I think going back to the calculator version 7.3, which was back when we were calling it Blue Marble Desktop. Now the Alberta systems again have been in there for quite a while. We have all of the various grids going back to the two series of those grids. The Saskatchewan grids, we just got our hands on those, and so those are new, the 4 variations of those grids. We are also actually working on supporting the grids for Manitoba. Those are going to be coming along sometime this year. Those will be added in there as well. Right now, they are all still limited to the Canadian regions. There are other township systems that are used outside of Canada. I know we have some non-Canadian users attending today on the session. We do have other requests for those, but right now the only actual township and range systems that we have on our list going forward are the Canadian systems. If you are working in one of those other areas and you have particular systems you're interested in, we're always interested in hearing what folks need. I see some other questions rolling in here about various other systems that are not just the township and range-based systems, the 10 TM systems specifically. We do actually have the 10 TM zone for Alberta in the projected systems. Let me see if I can remember where I left that one. I'm just going to open up our library of coordinate systems. I believe that should be found under projected, probably under North America, under Alberta, I believe is where we have that one located. Yep, right there. You'll find NAT 83 Alberta 10 TM. I'm not actually sure what the forest and resource definition difference would be there. Those are right off the top of my head. I'm not sure what those are. There's probably just a subtle difference in one of the minor parameters. But both of those 10 TM systems are right there. You'll also see a little farther down a NAT 83 CSRS variation of that. So one is on NAT 83, one is on NAT 83 CSRS. Those names that you see in there are coming right from the EPSG database. That's where those designations would all come from. As well, I know other folks are probably asking about the 3 TMs. I'll mention those while we're in here. There are all of those specific zones, and as well, you'll see all of the MTM zones as well, spanning all the way across the country. Different folders, you'll notice there, since there are a lot of those different systems, we have foldered those by the base datum that they're in, either NAT 83, CSRS, or NAT 27. And again, if you're looking for something special that you don't see in there, the quickest thing to do is try and toss some text at that search box down at the bottom, and as well, if the search down at the bottom doesn't do it for you, please feel free to drop a line into our support team. Those are the kind of things that we deal with all the time, and we can usually just right off the top of our head say, oh yeah, this is where that particular system is, and that's where you're going to find it. We've got some questions about dealing with other applications, so tie-ins between calculator. So when folks mentioning AutoCAD, we don't have any direct tie-ins to AutoCAD. There's a question here, same question actually, with other tie-ins. We do actually have a module for ArcMap, since you asked about that. It's actually been compatible with ArcMap, or rather ArcGIS, all the way back to the early 9s of ArcMap. It's a simple toolbar that allows you access to all of the coordinate systems you'll find in the Geographic calculator. Everything from the MTM zones, the 10 TM zones there, as well as things like actually I don't think the Alberta systems would be in there, other than in the, there's a simple point-to-point converter in there. There are certain systems that cannot be handled by the applications we tie into. So specifically any of the geodetic systems and any of the projected systems in our library you'd be able to use in our toolbar over in ArcMap. Another question about tie-ins to Global Mapper. A lot of folks are familiar with our other main software package called Global Mapper. We do have a direct integration. You can use those applications side by side for all of the coordinate handling in there. Specifically, the question is combining Global Mapper 15.2 back in with GeoCalc 2014. So the calculator, when we released 2014, we had to do a little bit of a leapfrog to catch up to each other. Since they are completely different code bases, the integration there, we needed to catch up Global Mapper to be able to handle the latest coordinate systems from Geographic Calculator. We will be releasing 15.2 fairly imminently. I don't have the exact date in front of me. It is going to be very soon, and at 15.2, the integration will be back tied together with the Geographic Calculator. And I do know the gentleman that's specifically asking that question. I'll follow up with you afterwards. I'll take a look at the dates, and we'll let you know a little more specifically when that's going to be. Question coming in about the waypoints on the PDF output that we just did. Let's see, where we're going to be working on having the section labels displayed on that PDF. That's a great question. That is exactly the type of feedback we've been looking for. Let me just get back to or rather on the PDF here. Within the context of our townships there, you'll see each of those points has the NAD 27, NAD 83, and the local coordinates displayed for each of those local points. Right now, basically, if you were to be looking for the section numbers, the townships, the range, that stuff, you'd be looking down in those strings for the local coordinates to find that. I know that's not the cleanest labeling. If you'd like to actually have the section numbers, the townships, and such on the map, that's the kind of thing that we're looking for feedback on. We built this off of user requests. We were basically given a few sort of representative samples. People sketched out what they were looking for on these reports. So what we've got here is essentially version 1 of this souped up functionality. We used to only have one point on here. You can do these just with a single point like we used to. Adding in the multiple points is the new main functionality. Any feedback that we can get from our Canadian friends that are using this, we would love to hear it. Things like the fact that you'd like to see the section numbers right on those layouts, that's just the kind of thing we're looking for. I can certainly add section labels onto our list for development. We are going to be doing some modifications to the application for our summer service pack. We're going to be looking for a service pack on 2014, somewhere midsummer, early summer. We're going to be doing some work based on requests in particular to this interface, as well as the usual modifications and bug fixes elsewhere in the application as they come up. If you have any other stuff you'd like to see on this layout, we would really love to hear about it. We're located in Maine, down across the border in the U.S. The Alberta systems, the Saskatchewan systems, they're all a little bit foreign in a literal sense to us. So if there's stuff you need on a day in, day out basis, please don't be a stranger and let us know what you're looking for in there. I'm just going to make one more pass down the questions and see if I missed any. Question looks like an earlier question. I'll just point this out for everybody. The ATS files, there are various measurements in feet, meters, all the various versions. The question is, are they all supported? And yes, if you take a look down under that string category, you'll actually see subfolders for the boundary versus corner types. Under each of those, you'll see each of the grid versions, and then you'll also see variations. You'll see folders for the international feet as well as meters. They're all predefined in their own folders to make them a little easier to navigate down through. Things like the string order, whether you're using the unique well identifier order or the standard survey, that's simply handled on the formatting. There's no difference other than basically the order that all those little pieces are added in there. So that's handled by the formatting, but all of the same old options we had in 2013 are there. They're a little easier to make sense of now in their own folders and so on. So I think that's going to wrap it up for all the questions we've had. Thanks for you guys have given us a lot of good questions here today. Very active group. So just to wrap it up here, our last little closing slide. Thank you everyone for attending. The email for support, again, right there on the screen, geohelp@bluemarblegeo.com. for any follow-up questions. If you get a chance to use the new land survey summary job, let us know what you think of it. If there's anything additional you'd like to see in there as we go in for our next round of updates, enhancements, and things like that. And if you are a user of the Global Mapper application, or if you're interested in that at all, our next webinar session will be coming up next week on the 22nd, the same time. That is specifically going to be on raster processing and analysis in Global Mapper. That's going to be something for everybody. And as well, we are recording today's session. If there's something I took a look at you want to see again, we should have that up on our website under on the webinars page under previously recorded webinars. In just a couple days. Takes us a little bit to clean up these recordings. So I'd like to say thank you to all our Canadian friends joining us today, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.